What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Champion Living Podcast, where we believe that consistency, perseverance, and not taking life too seriously are the keys to success. I'm Doug, the founder and owner and head coach of Champion Living Fitness. Each week, I'll be joined by my coaching staff with the vision of providing trustworthy information about fitness, nutrition, and mindset, and how this all applies to being a professional rodeo athlete, as well as people from all walks of life. Are you ready to become a champion? Let's go.
Oh man, that's a bummer, bro. Hopefully, keep us in the loop on what they're gonna do with that. But it just shows, man. Like the doc said, you were cleared weeks before that, and you took the extra time to do it, and then it still happens. You got some Gorilla Glue, yeah, that'll help him.
I think that'll work.
Just hold it all together.
Yeah, but we see it all the time with athletes, especially with collarbones or groins and hip flexor stuff is like the number one thing I see docs be like, yep, you're ready to go. And they really have no understanding what happens in the sport, and it is not ready to go in a big way. And then they're 2 times behind on that. But hopefully if they plate yours, it's a little bit quicker healing time and shouldn't have to worry about that thing snapping again.
Yeah. And we got a long off season, so
yeah, we do. Everything happens for a reason. You know, it's like you just had all this stuff happening in your regular life, like the gym and you got a busy family, you got a kid, like kids walking now, like you're double busy. It's like all these things happen. It's like, you know, your heart wants you to go ride bulls, and sometimes God or whatever you want to call it has different options for you, and just trusting that and being okay with it and like looking for the positive is something I know you always do, but like I think a lot of people could take something from that experience that you're going through, because I know how much you love riding bulls and getting on, and you know how much it eats you up watching all the time. And so for a guy that loves it that much, taking that much time, and for it to things still happen, like it's just a good wake up call to anyone listening that you need to be doing more than what you think in preparation, especially coming back from an injury and being smart about it. Because sometimes even when you're smart, it doesn't go great. How are you coping with that, dude? Like mentally, what are you trying to stay busy? Like, how do you keep from that poor me kind of thing?
The first thing is I've always got, like, my wife's really supportive of all of it. Like, as frustrated as she gets with it, it's like she's always like, she's never going to tell me what I can and can't do or anything like that. She's going to be behind me 100%. So that helps, like, knowing that. But then also, I just try to not limit myself. Like, yeah, I've got the injury, but like, I'm not going to stop doing anything else that I've got to do.
Are you doing are you still going to the gym?
Yeah. Like, I'll still go to the gym.
Lower body and
that's what I did before. Yeah, like doing cross education stuff.
Yeah,
that's what I did in the last one too. Is like just getting in there and keep moving and try not to let anything really get to me, and that mentally helps. But then, like, even my wife, like she was set up there with her store and everything. We had some walls set up, and like I had to help her unpack all that the next morning after this all happened. So it's like you just gotta keep rolling and just keep going, and like just God's got a plan for everything, and that's the biggest thing for me, is just trusting in that and knowing that there's plenty of time. There's time to come back, and I've got clients that I can kind of live vicariously through as far as like riding and stuff. And so it's really cool to see them and having them have success. And they all call me every time they call me and they see something like that's happened. They're like, dude, that sucks. But like, they're super supportive too. So it's really cool that we've got those relationships with those guys. And that definitely helps keep pushing you, because they're pushing me just as hard as I'm pushing them. So it's really cool.
Dude, I love that. That is what it's about. And we don't even talk about that aspect of coaching. Like it's more than just us being their teammate, the client's teammate. Like the client is very much so our teammate as well. And you have this random check-in, or not random, you have monthly check-in with all your clients. And sometimes those conversations end up being like so much different than what you had planned out, and go so much deeper about, you get done, you're like, I think I got more out of that than they did. So you don't get to talk about that side of the relationship with our clients. And we're not just coaches that are saying, here's your workouts and do this, and, oh, you suck, why aren't you working out? Like, it's so much more than that. We live life with our people. And all the time I'm having conversations with clients that are sometimes I'm like, wow, this is a really personal side of someone's life, and they must
Yeah.
really trust me, like, to ask my opinion or what I should do. And it just it's so cool, man. It fires me up. It
That
makes me
was
fall
like
in love with what we do.
that was like an unintended consequence of coaching that I didn't see coming.
Yeah, you
Was
don't have your
like
therapy degree? I thought we did.
yeah. It's like how like, I mean, I've been with some clients through like huge life moments. And like there's a couple of them that like a lot of big life moments,
Mhm.
like marriage and moving and changing jobs and
Babies,
having
like, all
kids
of
and
it,
like,
yeah.
yeah, it's wild. And I think so much of like being a rodeo athlete, like you're an island in an ocean. And it's I don't know, maybe there was, some resources before us, but like until we started doing this, like now we can kind of come together as a group and as a community and help lift each other up and not have to be that island anymore. And so, things like injuries and stuff, like it doesn't feel quite as, because I know anytime that I've been hurt and you're laid up on the couch for 6 weeks and it's like
Well, it's like you feel like everyone forgets about you, and it's not that they forget about you, it's that they're just out on the road doing what they
rodeo
do.
rolls
And
on.
yeah, and that's the thing, and we've all been there with those injuries. And like, you be out on the summer run and you get hurt in the summer and you don't hear or see anyone for 4 months until they're back, and you're like, I have no friends. I don't have anyone to hang out with. Like,
Hmm.
everyone's forgotten about me. It's not they've forgotten about you. It's just that rodeo continues on and you have to continue to go. And you can either let yourself feel like that or involve, like, put yourself in there. Like, keep reaching out to your buddies, ask for help, ask them for some accountability to keep you rolling or a check-in or whatever. Most of your friends, I mean, if they're friends, they hopefully would do that for you. But I remember when I broke my back and I was just laying there on the couch and I'm like, I've been hauling with these guys for the last 2 years and I haven't had a text from any of them. It's not that they don't care about you. It's just that you got to remember what it's like being on the road. It's
Hmm.
hard. It's tough, but having a coach and having us there is, I think a lot of people would say, is a bonus. And again, is like my favorite thing about what we do, or one of them, is we just do so much more than just telling you how to work out. Right?
It, I feel like so much of it depends on the way the client approaches the relationship too.
For
You know,
sure.
because I have so many that are exactly like that. That are, I mean, I just talked to somebody yesterday who's thinking about cracking back out, and they wanted my opinion. He was like, "You were supposed to talk me out of it." I was like, "Oh no, you knew I wasn't going to tell you that." You know, so
You
I've
already
got
do.
and those clients that we move through life moments with, and then I've got other clients that I'm not as connected to, and I reach out to them. They still have all the same opportunities for conversation, but maybe they want to train. They don't necessarily, they've got their community, and that's totally
Mhm.
fine too. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's not like I have that deep relationship with all of my clients.
No.
I love that part of the job though. And I wish I did have that, like
Mhm.
I'd be totally fine with having, I'd run out of hours in the day,
Mhm.
there'd be,
Mhm.
because I enjoy those conversations. But it's definitely in my mind, the best part of the job is it's just building your community of people that get to, through the lens of Instagram and True Coach and Facebook, you get to go through life together. And it's
Mhm.
like, man, that is so cool. And occasionally in person when we get to see each other.
Mhm.
That's like one thing that I've kind of, now that I can, that I see the value in, like when injuries do happen, like not totally isolating yourself
Mm,
like that. When somebody, it's usually a message, hey, broke my ankle this weekend, I'm gonna need to take a break from, the program or whatever.
Mhm.
Like boom, I'm calling them like, hey,
Yep.
let's not. Okay.
Mhm.
And it's not because I want you to, like, stay on and keep paying me money. Like that's not it. But let's focus on something. Like
yeah.
let's get your head in a mind space to where when you do come back, you know that these last 6 weeks or 8 weeks were not wasted. Like you need to keep your mental attitude in the right place. Otherwise, when you do get released and you look back on, there's a gap there, like a
Mm,
resume gap. Like I haven't
Mhm.
worked in 8 weeks, and
Mhm.
so you have nothing to go off of.
mm,
And that's a tough thing to come back from.
You wo you just won't come back from it like you are imagining, right? You have to
Right.
have that plan. And like Tyler was talking about, what cross-sectional, what'd you call it? I'm sorry, I'm blanking
Cross
out.
education, where you
Cross-education.
can work one side and the other side gets the benefit.
Yeah, so he has a broken collarbone on one side. He is training his opposite side because it has been shown scientifically that strength can increase from training the opposite side in the side that is injured, or at least maintain the strength that was there. So we got the guys like Paul was saying that just, I broke something, I need to be done. And like, it's understandable. And if that's what you want to do, cool. But did you know that if you continue to train, that this could be a totally different scenario where you could be back stronger, faster than you thought. And then just if you're not doing that, you're sitting around and then you're taking the doctor's release time. For the most part, you're setting yourself up for not success, for failure.
Yeah.
And I think it's just not really to the fault of the doctors. They just don't know what happens in rodeo and what the stresses that are happening in the event. And we've had a couple athletes with that pelvic floor reconstruction, and they tell them they're free and clear after 6 to 8 weeks. And I think it should be like 6 to 8 months of time, because I've seen it more than once, seen it 3 or 4 times now with athletes having that surgery, being told you're good to go, get on next horse, not good to go. And we're doubly in a bad spot now because we've re-injured what we just had injured to fix. Right.
Yep.
So it's just something we don't talk about a lot, and I don't think gets relayed out there. And we're not doctors. We're just speaking specifically from our experiences with clients that we've had. And that's just what we've seen. And it's not random. It's pretty spot on almost every time.
It gets to be predictable. And so like, that's kind of something that I've thought about doing, is like kind of structuring like different injury timelines, like not giving, like, hey, this is when you're going to be healthy again. Like always making sure that they do check in with a doctor. Like you need to get cleared from a doctor. You need to get prescribed from a doctor, like what the recovery protocol should look like. But oftentimes, a doctor's just going to say like, yeah, just rehab it on your own and come back in 8 weeks. You maybe come back for a follow-up, maybe not. And so like, I really want to like start compiling like a list of protocol, like timelines.
Protocol. I love that. I think that's a wonderful idea. That's over and above what the doctor
would give,
because that's what I always say. I had somebody message me the other day. They're like, "Hey, I've got a rotator cuff issue. What can I do to strengthen that?" I was like, "Have you been to the doctor?" No. Well, you got to do that first. I'm not a PT. I don't want to be a PT. I want you to go to the doctor. I want you to see what they say and then work with the PT. And then like I'm happy to reach out to the PT that you choose and we can collaborate, but I'm not going to diagnose you and I'm certainly not going to prescribe, but having those protocols. So then because how often do we see guys come back from a broken arm, 8 weeks? Okay. Hey, you're cleared. 8 weeks and 1 day they get on again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we can establish or less than that, if we can establish some like protocols that are accepted universally for like return to sport with the help of working with doctors and PTs and strength coaches and come up with some universal, we could shift that like, hey, the doctor says you're good at 8 weeks, but we actually know now and have known for the last 10 years that it's actually 12. You need 8 weeks of healing, right? And then 4 weeks of strength training. And now you're at 12 weeks, you're back or whatever. But I think that's a fantastic idea. And it's another way to change the culture around rodeo and the mentality and coming back from athletes. It's just going to lead to longevity in their careers.
Yeah. I mean, I've had the conversation at least 3 or 4 times, like where I've had to like have them, hey, pump the brakes. Stanford University says right here in writing, like you need this much longer than what you think you do. Mm-hmm. And so like the resources are out there, and I just want to compile them so that I have them all, and then I can give at least somewhat decent recommendations on the next steps.
I love it.
And still sometimes you can do all the things and take extra time. And Tyler right here is a good example. He did everything right, and it's still it can still happen.
Rodeo.
Yeah,
too,
that's rodeo. That's exactly right.
Hey guys, we got some exciting news for you. If you're listening to this, we know that you're committed to upping your game in the arena, and we're teaming up with the Rodeo Now app to help you do just that. The Rodeo Now app allows you to record, upload, and catalog your rides and runs, review your performances in slow motion, and our favorite feature, if you're not familiar with your stock draw, you can search your animal by name to get all the intel you need to make your next ride a winning one. Join the rodeo revolution today and download the Rodeo Now app for free. It's available in the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. Hui has the best gear because it's tough, it's durable, it withstands the test of what we put it through, and that is why I am a big supporter of Hui brands. Guys, from hats, apparel, Whatever you need, they've got you covered. They are the perfect blend of rodeo style and athletic performance. You can check them out at huibrands.com. Use our discount code ChampionLiving, all one word, is going to save you a little bit at checkout. I want to continue on this, Logan, because we're on a good. This is kind of cool, and we had never talked about this. You have had more experience than all of us in this surgery, right?
You're more broken than anybody else here.
You sucked more than everybody else here, and were hurt more than no. I'm just
It
kidding.
has nothing to do with you sucking, but you have definitely had more surgeries.
Yes,
But
yes.
how many times have we had clients or talked to people that go in, get told they have to have a surgery, which is fine. I'm always going to recommend go get a second opinion. See what the other doctor's going to say. They get a second opinion. The other doctor's like, no, we can fix this with rehab, physical therapy. And we go down the road, and all of a sudden someone missed surgery, fixed it with prehab and rehab, and continued on. Now, that's not always a possibility, and I get that. Well, let's talk about that second. I want to talk about first, like, if you do have to have a surgery, if it is to the point where it needs to be fixed, not all surgeons are equal.
Ooh.
Right? In the same way as all coaches. So
Preach.
did you do your research? Did you look
Yes.
at like professionals? Did you ask more people? How did that all work for you?
Yeah.
I know you did that with your hip. Let's talk about your hips.
Yeah. So I have two examples. I have the hip and I have the elbow, and I did different things on both and got drastically different results. And on the hip, I knew that I needed to go see somebody that only did hips. That was my game
Which one
plan.
happened first? Just for
So it was the
context.
hip. It was the hip
Okay.
first. The hip happened first. It was this time of year. I was in Idaho Falls, like sitting 17th. Things are rolling. I've got the goods drawn. I'm getting texts from people I haven't talked to in years that are like, keep going. You know, you almost got the finals. I was feeling good, got whooped down, stepped on the middle of my back, and it blew both my hips out. It tore the labrum in both of my hips. And so I couldn't hardly walk the next day. And I got back and ended up getting imaging on both of them, just done locally. The imaging, something you can do locally, assuming your hospital has access to that. I got imaging done on both of them, and the left one was much more severe than the right one. So I opted to, it was obvious that I was going to need surgery. And so I opted to just get the right one done, or excuse me, the left one, the worst one. I'm so sorry. I probably messed that up. The left one done, the worst one, as opposed to the right. So then I started shopping for surgeons. And the Ortho Center of the Rockies is one that Justin Sports Medicine uses, and they have a great reputation of qualified surgeons, and they do a great job. There's also the Hip Institute in Nashville, who, to my understanding, when somebody needs hip surgery, typically Tandy is going to send them to Dr. Bird in Nashville. And so I reached out to the Ortho Center of the Rockies. I also reached out to the Hip Institute in Nashville. And I sent them both my images, and I got two opinions. And I ended up going with Dr. Bird in Nashville because Nashville was where I was from. I had some connections there. My mom lived there. I had a place to stay. That was the only reason I chose that. But what I loved about Dr. Bird was that all he sees all day long are hips. Impingements specifically. Hips. And he has done, typically speaking, he doesn't work with Gen Pop. It's athletes only. And there were a lot of guys in the rodeo world that I had known that had some hip issues that had already been to see him. So he's worked with rodeo athletes before. But I knew that I'd made the right choice when I went for my consultation, and he ran me through a 30-minute quiz about the things that I have done. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Have you done this? Have you done that? He wanted to make sure that surgery was the last possible option. And in my opinion, a surgeon does not rush into surgery. In fact, they want to do surgery if it's only the last resort. If you cannot rehab it, if you cannot prehab it, if it has to happen. And he wanted to make sure that I had gone through all the proper channels of trying to get it better myself. And I was like, okay, this is the guy for me. And so I ended up having surgery there. They have a great team of PTs there, and I was able to come in the next day, start my rehab. I did exactly what the PTs said, not one rep or one set less or more, exactly to the number. For it's supposed to be a 16-week recovery, and I had a follow-up at about 8 weeks, 9 weeks, somewhere around in there. They said I was ahead of schedule. I asked if I could come back at 12 weeks. I wanted to come back for Rodeo Houston. And they said, well, come back and see us right before. I did, right at about 11 weeks. And they said, things are looking great. You should be good to go. But I followed, number one, I went to a surgeon that only did hips. Number two, I followed the PT program to a T. I also had the luxury of being at New Mexico State University and getting to work with Michael Gregory, who is the head athletic trainer for the rodeo team. And I got to go see him every day. And he got to work on me every day. And so I had a very structured PT program that I got to use on a daily basis. I came back at 12 weeks, 4 weeks early, and to this day have never really had an issue out of my hip. And I came back and got on 1 in Scottsdale, 3 in Houston. I got on like 7 head in the first 10 days back, which I probably wouldn't recommend that, but I didn't have any issues. I had no issues, but I did my research. Then quickly on my elbow, I took the opposite approach. What I did was it needed surgery. I didn't have full range of motion. I just needed to get it cleaned out. My wife worked at the local hospital in Las Cruces, and I could get elbow surgery, a clean out at a discount if I just did it there at the local hospital. I was the 12th elbow that surgeon had seen that day, and he's used to getting, grandma to be able to get the can of beans off the top shelf at Kroger. He's not used to working with athletes, and my elbow is still not right and will never probably be right. And so I didn't do any research. I just went with what was closest, cheapest, most efficient. And it ended up being one of the things that put the nail in the coffin of my riding career. I couldn't keep my shoulder back, couldn't stay square. And so not all surgeons are created equal. 100%. You nailed it.
Yeah. I love the firsthand experience with that too. Like, that's a real story. That is real life. And that was, it doesn't get talked about enough, man. Like, oh, I just had this injury. It's like, well, in all reality, if you would have gone about this a little differently and done research and thought about, and you're young, you're not thinking about that. Did you guys have a kid like you probably had a kid?
Yeah.
Like
Two of them.
We're rodeo or not making a ton of money. Like, it makes sense to go that cheaper option there. But when we start thinking about the long-term effects and what really happens, is like, I would have much rather had that doctor bill and had it fixed correctly. I'm sure you would have too, right? Because then who knows what would have been. But that's not the cards we were dealt. We made a different hand. Like, we played a different hand. Oh well, it is what it is. We learned and we move on. But we don't talk about this enough, with the experience of having a good surgery and going to a guy that's all he does. And then you go to a general surgeon and the results are very different. And it's the same when I had my back, man. It took me 3 years to find a surgeon that would fix me and thank God the orthopedics said, I'm not comfortable with that. Like, I work on 70-plus-year-old women, men. Like, this is an old person surgery, and my goal is to make sure that they can live the next 10 to 15 years of their life without being in too much pain. You have a whole life ahead of you. And when I found Dr. Siddiqui in Texas Spine Institute, he does over 200 spine fusions a year. Like, that is all he does. And he does them on all kinds of different people. And he told me, he's like, so honest, and I loved it, because he's like, I'll fix you. I will fix what's going on. What you can do after, I have no idea, because I've never done this on someone your age. You are an experiment. He's like, you will have no more pain, I promise you. But I cannot promise you that you'll return to rodeo. I can't promise you that you'll return to the gym like you did. Like, I don't know. Well, truth be told, I did the same thing, like you did with your hip. I took every single thing there was and did it. And I did it longer. And when I started my rehab, I gave myself a year to be lifting my body weight on a deadlift from the ground. That's all I wanted to do. Truth be told, it happened a lot faster than a year, but I didn't put a time constraint on it. And I focused on doing it right. And it happened way faster. And if you look at everything in life, if you just do that, focus on those fundamentals, the things that you need to do, and put that end goal just kind of out of your vision for a second, all of a sudden that end goal is in front of you and you just smashed it. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. But you're that year that you put on, just say it did take you a year. That year, when you're 19 or 20, that seems like a really long time. But over the span of your life, of the next 60 years of your life, it's really nothing. And so by taking that year now, I mean, to my knowledge, you're not limited by your back in anything that you do. I mean, I've moved freaking irrigation with you. If you had back problems, that would cause that right there would. So you're able to do whatever you wanted to, because you took that extra time. You weren't rushed to say, okay, I've got got to get back for Pendleton. I've got to get back for this. I've got to get back for that. You were just like, I'm just going to get it right. And now you have a whole life of being able to do normal stuff.
Exactly. It's just a mindset switch and being young, right? We get, especially rodeo athletes, man, we got to get back. We got to get entered. We got to get on. Why? Are you going to win? Well, if you can't say yes, or you have you feel that confident you're going to win, you don't need to be going back yet.
Yeah.
Wait till you are to the point where I am. Let's freaking go. Because if you're not in that top 15, you're not in a bubble position right now, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're not.
We just don't know who we are outside of rodeo, though.
Right.
At 19 or 20, that's where the issue is, that it's our identity. And so we think if we're not entered or not actively going or not just coming back right after surgery, getting in it, that we're like, a lot of times, at least for me, I was lost without that. I didn't know who I was outside of somebody that was rodeoing.
Yeah, and it almost holds you
That's
back.
where Tyler's example is totally different, because I feel like, although as rodeo athletes, we do identify with that.
He's learned from all of us, Paul.
But Tyler's got other things going on. Tyler's a dad. Tyler's a family man. He owns
gym owner.
He's a successful coach. He owns a business. His wife owns a business. He's got a lot of things to look forward to. And his every single decision that he makes isn't hinging on when can I enter next.
No, he's doing it because he loves it, and he knows that if he wants to continue to do it, he has to do things correctly. And he did it all correctly, and it still happened. And he knows that's just part of the sport. He could sit there and dwell and be like, "Oh, I broke my collarbone again." It's like, no, I chose to get on the bull. I nodded my head. I made the ride. I got bucked off shitty. It is what it is. I'm moving on, and I'm continuing on. And, he's going to continue to do the rehab correctly, and he'll be able to come back whenever he wants, because he doesn't have this nagging thing. That's all he is. That's all he's only a bull.
Or not. Not
Or
that
not.
he's not planning on retiring, but or not. That's the other thing, is that he doesn't need rodeo to define him. You know what I'm saying? Or not. He could never run his hand in a bull rope again, and he'll be totally fine. He's not going to have a mental breakdown. He's not going to go down this dark hole that a lot of us go down when rodeo goes away. A lot of us go down that dark mental, because we don't know who we are or what we've got outside of rodeo.
And that's exactly what returning too early invites in. Is it being done over?
Yes.
What's better?
Yes.
You come back earlier to have one more season and then your career's over at 25, or would you rather come back healthy and your career lasts till you're 35? What's better if you look at the big picture?
Yeah.
It's just hard to separate that sometimes.
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying is we're saying this because we've had those hard conversations and those dark times. And
you just got to be selective. I mean, and I was really selective. I even turned out bulls this weekend that when I seen videos of them, I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not ready for that. I'm not going to get on something like that, and I hate turning out. I'm one of the last person to ever turn out a bull. I don't care what it is, I'll go get, I'll go get on them. But coming back from this, I was very selective. I had a bull that I knew, in my mind, I knew I could ride him, and he fit me really well. And I'd been wanting to get on him for the last year and a half. I just had never drawn him, and I had an opportunity to win. So definitely makes it easier to be it happened, but it was in my control of
It was
knowing
calculated.
Yeah.
It was calculated.
You took a
counted the
calculated
cost.
risk. Yep.
Yep. You counted the cost, and you were like, this is worth it. This is worth it because I can win on this bull. I know I can ride this bull. I believe that I can win on this bull. And you went knowing that. And so then you can let the chips fall where they may. It wasn't like, you showed up to get on some calves or, at the practice pen or something like that. But that's what I preach to guys, and we all do, is that every ride needs to matter. Every time you nod your head, it needs to be moving you closer to who you want to be or where you want to be. We don't have room in our bodies for wasted rides, just for, just slipping over here to win a little gas money. Does that one ride set you up for who you want to be? Because if it doesn't, don't enter, don't go. You need to save those rides in your body for the stuff that actually matters and moves the needle forward for you.
Yeah. And when we're young, it's so hard to think about there not being another ride, or I don't feel like that's a reality for most people, or as much as it should be. I don't think you should dwell on that. I could never ride again if I get on. That's not the point. The point is to take advantage of it. Like Logan's saying, make sure you're fired up about it. You're going to get on because you have a chance to win. You have a chance to succeed. And granted, if you're going to be a professional rodeo athlete, you're going to have to get on things that you don't want to. But the bottom line is you have to just do the basics and get by those things, right?
Yeah.
And or you don't, you just turn them out like me and Logan and Hoppers only.
turn our toes in and our stock out. Oh man,
that's it, man. It's
yeah.
but I just wanted to touch on. I thought that was a cool thing to touch on. We haven't talked about that ever, I don't think, in depth about just what goes on and with injuries and doctors. And we're strength and conditioning coaches. We get you after the rehab and prehab, right? We're all the sports medicine team should be the doctors, the PTs, the ATs communicating with the strength and conditioning professionals about what the rehab has done, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, for how long. And then if you have all that communication, your rehab goes really, really well, and it goes how it should, So it's just hard in rodeo because there's a lot of holes in the.
Yeah, there's so many holes, and it's crazy the difference between. I've had some athletes that have said, "Hey, this is the PT that I've been seeing. Here's their email address," and I'll email them. No ego, just like, hey, this is so and so is going to become a client of mine. I just kind of wanted to see, because they see them in person. So they get their hands on them. They can see those things that I can't see through a video screen. And so, but communicating with them, and more often than not always, but more often than not, I receive an email back and they're able to communicate with me. And it's amazing how much faster they progress when I have that information to go off of, and we work together. That unfortunately is actually pretty rarely the case. I get the athlete side of the story on their recovery and rehab. And unfortunately, the athlete side of the story is pretty often actually not reality. It's probably, there's a lot of things they don't know about their
exactly.
It's not that they're intentionally misleading anybody. They just don't know. And so then we run into hiccups later on. It's like, and then the PT looks at the strength coach like, what an idiot. Why did you do that? And the strength coach looks at the PT like, why didn't you rehab them better? Well, really, there's such a miscommunication and no communication, in fact, that led to, and the person that suffers because of that is the athlete. All the ego, all the pride, all the athlete ends up suffering the most, because the people in this athletic training, surgeon, rehab, strength coach world, we just can't get over ourselves.
Yeah,
And
someone thinks they're better than the other.
we just can't say like, hey, I just want to help. Well, you know what I'm saying? And at any rate,
Well, we can, but then we
well,
sometimes get told the same shit.
yeah, you're exactly right. No, that's exactly right. But I almost every conversation that I've entered with somebody that was in the field for much longer than me, whether they were a strength coach or a PT or whatever, that I ever enter, and I'm just like, hey, just let you, like, number one, I do have my CSCS, so like I'm at this, but I'm a young coach and I want to learn, and I would love to ask you questions. Anytime I've entered a conversation that way, I've never been denied. And because I leave the ego at the door. You know what I'm saying? I check the ego at the door. I'm not coming to tell you or show you how much I know, because I actually know that
mindset.
That's exactly right. And then we both benefit from the conversation, and I'm able to grow and learn things, and they might be able to pick up something about rodeo for me, and it works. And then the athlete's better off because of it, And so anyway, we can talk about that for days, I'm sure, but
it is, man. But that's spot on. And like, it's like if I was having something like done on my plumbing, and the plumber's like, or someone asked me what has to be fixed, and I just repeat what I think the plumber said to me to a guy who's professional, and they're like, what the hell? What? Like, does that make sense? Like, why would he say that? Instead, they go ask the plumber what actually happened. They're like, oh, I see now. It's like if I was training a high level athlete and they had an injury and they said, this hurts, and he told me to do it this way. And you're like, what? Like, how does that doesn't no.
That doesn't
Like,
make sense.
coach, like
Yeah.
if that guy told you adjusted that way, there is something seriously wrong. And so when I get answers like that, my first reaction is like, I need to call that coach and find out what actually is happening, because it's not the athlete's job to know how to relay that to me properly. His job is to be a good rodeo athlete and do the workouts and the exercises.
Yeah.
Communication needs to come from the professionals, and that's where we can avoid so much miscommunication and just BS that happens
Did you guys ever play that game as a kid where you like, there's like, you know, a circle of like 10 or 15 people. And so you like whisper something in the first person's ear and then they like turn to the person
Telephone.
next to them. And yeah, telephone, like that game of telephone. That's exactly what it's like. By the time it gets around
That's
to the other
everything in the
person-
world today,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Yeah, it's like it's just completely off of what it actually was meant to be in the very beginning. And then that's it's crazy times, man.
It is crazy times. But
Crazy
if you're dealing with injuries or anything like that, take them seriously. Go ask the questions. Find out what the actual game plan is from your doctor, from your coach, whatever it is. Explore your options. Make sure you're finding, if you have to have surgery, find the surgeon that has good results. Same thing as a coach, man. Like, make sure that they're getting the results with the clients that you want. And beyond that, man, like, this is, like we said, this is all a team. We all work together. We get to help the athlete. The athlete does better.
If
Ego gets in the way, you got problems.
Yeah, if I know that any one of us, I speak for all of us, any one of us that you can find on Instagram, if you're going through an injury and you're in a dark spot, or maybe rodeo's over and you're not sure what the next step is, and you're like, man, you're struggling, please send a DM, dude. Send a DM, like reach out, because we have all been there. I've heard stories of Doug in class giving a presentation about rodeo and losing it. I mean, I went down the whole alcohol and drugs route for a while, almost lost my marriage and my family. Like, we've all been in those places where we just don't know what's next and we don't know who we are. And so like, you're not alone there. If you're listening to this and you're like, oh man, that's me, dude, you're number one, you're not alone. Number two, like, reach out. I would love to chat with anybody. I know all of us would. We would love to walk you through what it looked like for us. And anyway, you don't have to go through that alone.
No, absolutely. And like you said, message us, hit us up on Instagram, whatever. We are here to help you guys in any way we can. And I know we don't talk about like our hardships and shit we've been through in life, but I can guarantee you, if you think that there's no turnaround, call me. I will tell you some stories that could prove to you that you can turn everything around.
Some stories I'm not willing to put on our podcast.
Not yet. I need to one day. I will tell the story one day, but it's a lot and it's wild.
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel the same way. I got some stuff on here I'm not ready to air on the podcast.
But it's we're here for everybody, and whether it's working out, rehab, prehab, just need someone to talk to. Like, I tell all of our kids that, like, if it's just life, man, if you just have a thing that's going on, I've been through a lot of life. I can give you whatever advice I have, I will freely give it to you, you know? So that's why I love doing what we do. It's about so much more than just getting strong and fit. It's about being a good human and building good humans and good athletes. Did you guys see I got a flat tire yesterday?
Dude, I thought I was going to ask you about what happened. It was a flat tire.
This is such a law of attraction thing. I thought this into existence. I totally screwed myself here. I saw a post. This chick she's a trainer at the gym down here. She's like had her kid in the Jeep. They were taking this road, and Paul knows, you get on this road, there is nothing. You are in the mountains for 40
It's hardly
miles.
a road.
It's barely
a path.
It's a path, yes. And so I'm like, she got a flat on that road and was talking about how she was like stoked to change it by herself and all that. I'm like, I haven't looked at my tires since I bought that vehicle. I haven't even had them rotate. I put 30,000 miles on this thing since the last year. I'm like, I bet my tires are a little not great. And so when we're heading up there and we get up, and I took her to the backside of the mountain, Paul, this time to where we could drive up to the top, and you can get all the way up there. But you thought that thing we were on was a path. This thing that we got on was a goat trail that somehow fit my truck. And I knew it going up. There was a lot of rocks and sharp rocks sticking up. And I was like, if I go slow, we're going to be good. Going down, I'm probably if it's going to happen, I'm going to pop my tire here. And so we get off of that. Finally, it's 9 miles up that mountain and down, and get back to the main road to where we were. And we get like halfway down towards town, and that alarm goes off. And I'm like, no. I was like, I haven't ever changed this tire in this truck. Like, I don't know if everything's here. Where's the jack? So we got it all figured out, got her changed, but we did it right by the waterfall. And it was like the only flat place.
It's the only place that's wide enough where you could even do it.
Didn't see a single car until we 30 minutes, I finally had the tire on. Someone drove by, and I was like, "Oh, now you show up. Thanks for that."
Now you show up.
Yeah. But it was pretty easy, but of
really
course.
could have used a man a little while ago.
But I'd never taken Al out scouting or anything like that. Of course, the first time I take her, we're going to get a flat.
Oh, yeah.
Boom. It happened.
Oh, yeah.
That was my bad. My fault. But it was a good adventure.
I couldn't tell what you were doing when you were laying up underneath there. I was like, that's a really weird place to change the oil. What's he doing over there?
Just draining it off in this waterfall here.
Yeah.
That's a good spot for it.
Stay heels, get it away from here. Yeah. Take it right downstream.
Oh, that's so
But
funny.
it was an adventure. It's fun. It always seems to happen like that. You take someone that you're like, I just want them to enjoy this and nothing crazy to happen. Of course, it's going to happen with them in the truck.
Oh, man. I broke a tiller yesterday. So my father-in-law's tiller, of course. So I blew it up. It's one of these tillers where the PTO shaft, it's like a split shaft. So the one end feeds into the other end, and it's just like this big square tubing. And I broke the welds on all four corners of the square tubing, exploded it. So anyway, yeah, if it's a borrowed piece of equipment, I can tear it up. If it's mine, it could be rough as guts and it'll last for forever. But if I borrow it, I'm for sure going to break it. So anyway, my father-in-law's having knee surgery today. And so he was like, no big deal. I don't need it for a while. So I'm going to try to get it fixed. But at any rate, that was my excitement yesterday. Kapow. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, breaking the welds, dude. That sounds like
that good.
Not good.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I wasn't supposed to go in road gear. I don't know. I'm just kidding. I was going really slow.
Trying to till up the asphalt in front of your house.
Yeah, I was building using a little arena for Lacey. She's got this horse that she's been riding. She's just kind of pretty green broke. And so I used all the panels that I had to build this little 60 by 60, whatever. It's not, I mean, I use the term arena very loosely. It's like a round pen that's square. Yeah. So square pen at any rate. And I was trying to till it up and I'd gotten it pretty well done, but yeah, it lasted. That was so weird because it lasted for 2 hours and then it finally spit the bit on me. So now she's got a tilled up place. Her and Conley can go ride and piddle around, and it's always something, man. It's always something.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everybody got a little something out of this. It wasn't too long, but just a quick touch on a little random topic. And if you guys have any questions, like Logan said, or need anything, just reach out to us. Send us a message on our website, www.championlivingfitness.com. If you have any interest in our coaching or programs available, hit the sign up now form. It's a free consult. You get to talk with us, get all your questions answered. It's simple. Guys, until next time, we'll catch you later. Y'all, if you're having trouble sleeping or you've got really achy muscles, Power Pro CBD has teamed up with us to bring you their tinctures and their warming lotions. Guys, these have been a crucial part of my nightly routine. Y'all can check them out at PowerPro, PWRpro.com. Use our discount code ChampionLiving, all one word, to save you a good chunk at discount. Lots of rodeo gear companies are coming out, but not all are equal. Beastmaster is really setting the bar when it comes to the equipment that is built for durability and designed for success in the arena. You guys can check them out at beastmasterrodeo.com. Use our discount code ChampionLiving24. That's ChampionLiving24. Going to save you a little bit at checkout.
If you want to learn more about our coaches and program options, make sure to swing over to our website at www.championlivingfitness.com. You can fill out the Become an Athlete form to set up your free consultation and have all your questions answered by a coach.